And away we go. Oh, better change that. Title. Material. Up to Niasa. Gathering and trading. Chilling and chatting. All players welcome. Done. And away we go. Go on, you can do it. How you doing, Orange Phoenix? Welcome to the wondrous stream. A bit of a lag spike. There's too many fleet carriers. Well, they were in the previous one. That's what I want. Just going to trade some data materials. Hopefully I picked the right one. Oh, hang on. I'll just check Anara quickly. Oh yeah, all sorts of fun. I've just topped out on my grade 5s at Jamison's Crushed Cobra. So I guess I should go and trade some materials. Hit 12314. I think this one's the one where it had data materials. A lot of them are getting a bit low, especially the grade 4-5 mats, so I was going to check what the raw ones were at after I've done this bit of trading here. maybe do a trip out to the crystalline growths and gather top up. Yeah, I want to get it so that I'm fully stocked, so that the next time I decide I'm going to do a trip over to Beagle Point, I can upgrade everything without going searching. Because I think that's the next thing I want to do is go for another trip over to Beagle Point. I've done it in an orca, I've done it in a beluga. Now I want to go and do it in a dolphin. But I'm kind of not sure whether I want to do it in a dolphin because the beluga was so much fun. Yeah, I'm seriously considering my birthday's coming up in August, and I'm seriously doing a 24-hour stream and seeing how far I can make it. Yeah, cutter's not too bad for the trip, actually. Alright, lady, which materials are you interested in? Manufactured. As you can see by my manufactured components, I need to do some of that too. Alright, back to Anara and find this materials trader. We want data encoded. Ray Gateway in Diaguandri. Been there before. Oh, there are a few carriers around here. Yeah, the beluga was great fun going to Beagle Point because you've got your fighter, you've got as many SRVs as you need. Um, you've still got to watch your heat if you get too close to stars, which the dolphin you don't tend to have that issue. But just being able to jump out of the beluga and go scan something on a planet in the fighter with little to no risk to your main ship made a huge difference in checking out the geologicals and things like that. Yeah, you can scam me all you like. I've got nothing to look at. Don't think. Hang on. No, we're empty. The other day I thought it was empty. I'd been mining LTDs and picked up the tritium as well while I was just doing the LTDs. And yeah, joy of joys, I started getting interdicted after I sold my LTDs and couldn't figure out why. I just don't like the way the Conda flies. One thing I do like about the passenger ships is that they are quite manoeuvrable, especially the Orca, but even the Beluga is far more manoeuvrable than the Anaconda. I have had a Conda, but I sold it. I've got cutters for trading, and I've got a vet for combat, and the Beluga and the Orca for just about everything else. I mean, this thing's got a decent view of the stars. It's a little bit thick in these supports at the front, but and you can't look down like you can in an asp. I mean, this thing's in Super Cruise and it flies like it's in real space. Except when it comes to the loops of shame. Or as I prefer to think of it, looking for that... Oh, thank you for the follow. That's it. I mean, I understand why people like the Conda. It jumps further, it can carry more cargo or more modules. Um, it works in combat, exploration, trading. You name it, the Conda can do it, and it can do it pretty well. But I just don't like the way it flies. And that's just me. It's like the Python. I don't enjoy flying the Python. I do use it on occasion when I'm doing trading from outposts, but it's just not a fun ship to fly. For me. The worst part about the Python is that windscreen, the supports across the cockpit window are just in the wrong space. It's all good. Occasionally these things drop out. I have noticed it's taking an inordinate amount of time to drop into space stations at the moment. Especially when you're in a busy system as far as fleet carriers are concerned. The FDL, I won't buy one. I refuse. I would buy a Mamba just because I think it looks nice. I'd never use it for its purpose, um, unless, of course, its purpose is flying around on the surface of planets really fast in straight lines. I had fun couple of months ago. I took my Beluga and kitted it out with engineered packhounds and went pirate hunting in it. It was great fun. I mean, it wasn't designed to do that job, but that's the beauty about Elite. The FDL reminds me of the 1950s spaceships from Flash Gordon and things like that, when people didn't really know what a spaceship should look like. I mean, I like the Vulture. I think it's a fun ship to fly. It's just that the canopy on it gets blown out nearly every time you shoot at something because they have a tendency to shoot back. But having two large weapons, one either side of the cockpit, is great fun. One thing about one of the new fleet carrier designs, it reminds me of the ship that was in, I think it was Series 2 or 3 of Buck Rogers in the 25th century from the 80s. But I actually managed to pick up the original novel on which, oh, excuse me, the Buck Rogers story was based, and it's a completely different story. Yeah, see, quite low in the top end. So I want these. I don't want to trade these. Those, trade those. What else am I really low on in here? See, that's not fair. Oh well. Now at least I got a little bit of everything. What have I got a lot of? Atypical encryption archives. Go 50. Anything else I'm especially low on? I think that'll do for the data for now. I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, I like the fact in the original Buck Rogers story, he was trapped in a coal mine with an unusual mix of gases, which caused him to pass out and preserved him, as opposed to being in a space shuttle or something similar. Alright, let's have a look. See, raw materials, I've got quite a few. Let's have a look. We'll just mark it the grade 5s. And the elements. Yeah, see, not much in the way of grade 5 materials in the raw, but I think most of them are grade 4. Yeah. So selenium's the only, or selenium and zirconium I could do with getting some more of. So it's not really worth a trip out to Whoop Whoop for them. So what I need, more than anything, is these. because of these, I've got bugger all. Right, let's have a quick look. Let's have a look. So I'm just having a look at the moment to see the best way that I can do this without doing the log in, log out. Oh, yeah. The Barsoom series was great fun. Princess of Mars, I think. Is it Princess of Mars that was the first one? Yep. I mean, I even, in my younger years, read the, what was his name? John Norman's Gore series, which was basically based on the Mars books, but with a twist towards, yeah, John Norman's way of looking at things. The world was an interesting world, but I can't see it working for me otherwise. I don't know if you've read the Gore series, Gore saga. There's about 30 something books in it now. Looks like I'm looking for HGEs. And away we go. I don't want the landing gear down. Oh, Deathworld. Loved Deathworld. The one that I liked the most was where the planet that he was on, I guess it was like Pandora out of Avatar. The more dangerous the humans were to the surrounding wildlife, including plants in the area, the more dangerous the planet became to them. So they started off, they crash landed on the planet. Everything around the area where they crash landed basically regenerated, but was not very nice. And then you had, they kept on going out in protective suits trying to clear the land instead of working with it. And the blades of grass developed sharp points on them. And then when the points wouldn't When the points wouldn't break through the armor, they started developing hooks, and then the hooks became serrated and broke off. Um, and that's not to mention the other plants that were suddenly the fruit became poisonous and things like that. It was just the thought of that world was amazing. And then you had these few settlers that decided that they weren't going to go destroying the planet and instead decided they were going to work with it. And they basically were able to live in harmony. Yep. It's just amazing. The ideas that that guy came up with are just insane. In a good way, but insane. Beyond stuff. I love the way that the space station's orbiting the planet, so the planet's moving out of the way, so I can access these things. I really like this game. Might have to have a look at that one. Another author I used to read a lot of, he hasn't written anything recently that I'm aware of, was Piers Anthony. Fantasy or sci-fi, I didn't mind his. I can't remember what it started off with. Blue Adept series, which basically combined fantasy and sci-fi in one series. I also read Riverworld. I used to have all of them, but one of them died. I'm not sure. Who's it by? Yeah, there's my dog making himself known. I mean, I read just about anything that I can get my hands on at different times. I've even read Mills and Boons. I think I know the name. Fair enough. I think I've heard the name, but I'm not 100% sure. Craig Allenson, I recognise that. I think I've only read the first one, Columbus Day. Yeah, that'd be the only one I've read's Columbus Day. And it was not recently. Oh, sorry, I misread that. I was looking for L Skippy, not AI Skippy. Oops. Alright, I'll have to keep an eye out for the other ones. Have you read any by, I think it's Brian Stasheff? What was it? Sorry, Christopher Stasheff. Um, Warlock to the Magic Born is the series, the Warlock Saga. Oh, okay. Yeah. Christopher Stasheff, he wrote a series called Warlock to the Magic Born. It starts off a sci fi novel that appears to have nothing whatsoever to do with the rest of the series. But what it is in the first book, people are leaving Earth and going and colonizing new planets and things like that. And some of them just want to disappear and not be remembered. And this particular group, they've got an AI that's helping out this group of people. They're creating movies and things like that. Um, they've got this AI called FES, which is an acronym, not that I can remember what the acronym's for. But FES basically is the AI of a starship that keeps having epileptic fits. So whenever the starship gets stressed, it shuts down. And then sometime later, this guy inherits the starship and goes and finds one of the lost colonies. And this lost colony is a colony of wizards and witches and so on and so forth, with most of the fantasy creatures existing. Because when they land on the planet, they didn't realize it, but there was a psychically reactive moss that when people who were latent or operant psychics dreamt or imagined something or told stories, etc., they would actually cause this moss to form into whatever the creature it was that they were thinking of. Adrian Jiskowski. No, I don't know that one. But yeah, the Warlock to the Magic Born. They started off as I think it was six or might have even been nine novels, but then they released them in books where you had the first three books, then the second three books, and then the third three books. So it'd be nine. So you could actually buy a collection of nine in three larger volumes, each of which was made up of three smaller books. Um, but yeah, it just worked really, really well. The storylines linked in nicely together. There was swashbuckling and magic, and you also had the science because apparently this planet full of psychics becomes important in the future for keeping the galactic government working, because the only way that people can vote, telepathy apparently is instantaneous, so it's the only form of instantaneous communication. So yeah, Tchaikovsky. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. British author. I shall put the correct spelling in the chat for you, just for future reference. I I've heard the name, but I haven't read any of his books. But it certainly sounds interesting. All right, let's have a look and see if there is any high grade emissions out here somewhere. Doesn't appear so. All right. Onto the galaxy map. We want to filter, not by star class, but by, where are we? Allegiance. Start off with Federation. $1.4 million. Boom. Yeah, no. 4.9 million. That'll do. So yeah, um, probably my favourite author and favourite series of books is the Magician series by Raymond Feist. I have reread Magician probably 2 dozen times. I've had every version of it that I could find, from the original release through to the director's cut or author's edition. I've even read it when they split Magician into two novels, though I couldn't understand why they did it. Weapons Weapons fire, we don't want that when in an unarmed ship. Pardon me. Oh, Raymond Feist books have been made into audiobooks. I'll see if I can find a link because I actually was listening to them last week.
Raymond E.
Sorry about that. There's book one. Oh, hang on, forget it. That's the rabbitized version of it. Yeah, somebody's used an auto reader for that particular version, so ignore that. That's not the one I found the other day. Oh, there we go. High grade emissions. Target you. I said target you. Oh, hang on a minute. There's 20 minutes remaining on that, so I've got time to go there.
This is Audible.
Oh, come on, stop. Oh, time to have some fun in a dolphin. Okay, they definitely have done it, but most of them you've got to pay for, unfortunately. I would say at a guess that the version that I was listening to was removed from YouTube because that one was read by a human being. And when do we store? What's the bit? My stored items is up at 120. I thought so. I don't need that. Don't need that one. That one. Definitely don't need that one. What the bloody hell is that doing an asteroid? No, get rid of it. No, it's all good. Yeah, like I said, don't worry about that YouTube version. Um, yeah, there's some issues there. I really think they need to do something about increasing your module limit. I know I've got lots of pack hounds, but they come in handy. I mean, considering you can have 40 ships, which includes all these modules, per station, but you can only have 120 modules outside of your ships, doesn't make sense. I could understand 120 modules per station. Oh, pack hounds, yeah, yeah. Can't go past pack hounds. I remember before we had engineering and it didn't really matter that much. because you could always go and buy more of the same thing. But these days, once you've engineered it, you almost don't want to throw it out because you know you're going to need it. Okay, optional internals. That can be stored. That can be stored. No, we'll just get rid of that. I don't really need it. It's just when I'm in lazy mode. Legal issues. How come I've got legal issues? I don't know. I must have done something naughty. Yeah, well, I started playing this well before Horizons came out. It was, I think, about a week after the game was released. When I was a lad, our Asp Explorer could get 35 light years, and that was insane. The only way we used to be able to reach Beagle Point. Alright. Contacts. Already contacts. No, there's nothing there. No. Right, let's have a look over here. I have a bounty in LTT 4487 that I didn't even know about. Oh well. Knowing my luck, I've been flying around in this thing and I've bumped somebody and they've run into something and died. Oh, look, it took me nearly 3 years to get my first um, of the big three. These days you can do it in a couple of hours. Well, not a couple, but well, you could do it in a couple of hours if you actually had somebody helping you. That's the one we want, and away we go. Yeah, I mean, my first billion took me a long time to earn, and I got it from doing. I didn't use any of the exploits that came out. Because it just wasn't a thing you did. I mean, I think I earned my first billion mostly from exploration. I've avoided combat as much as I possibly can. I mean, I've had some fun doing it, but it's it's not the part of the game that I find the most enjoyable. Anyway, I shall be AFK or unavailable on this on the microphone for a few minutes. I've just got to go and grab a drink, etc. So I shall return shortly. Sorry about that. All sorted now. Alrighty. Activating lazy mode. Oh, better turn the beer right back off. There we go. Now I'm here. So yeah, I understand that you can reset your high grade emissions if you log completely out of the game. This is useless to me. Back to the station. I forgot the limpets. Oh, bugger it. I'll pick them up manually. Nearly there now. I remember when we didn't have collector limpets. I think the first time I went mining was in a Cobra Mark III and I had to pick everything up manually because there wasn't enough room to put what I needed in there. Proprietary composites. Core Dynamics composites. They're the ones we want. Well, you're nice and close. And drifting a little. And I missed. bounce it. The only problem with the dolphin is when you're doing manual scooping, crosshairs have that grey bar right across the centre. But there we go. Trying to teach somebody to do that these days, it's faster to go and get them to make bloody where are we? That's where I want. Faster and easier to get them to go and buy some collector limpet controllers and limpets. Been a long time since I've had to scoop things manually. Hi Arthur Kill. How you going? Just doing some materials gathering. As you may have noticed from the title of the stream, sorry. Bored. Yep. I can understand that. So what kind of work do you usually do? Fair enough. I did that for a while, then I got into IT support, which unfortunately I'm not able to do anymore. So now I volunteer at a food bank. If you've done web design, IT support should be pretty much right up your alley. The hardest part is turning technical speak into normal English so people can understand what's going on. But that's part of web development anyway. Oh, I can't do lazy mode anymore. I sold my docking computer. Yeah, I remember doing that. I was for 6 months I was employed to reset passwords, and because I was working in a secure environment, I didn't even have the access required to be able to do that. So all I had to do was write down the person's login details, and take them to somebody else to do the actual work. All I was doing was answering phone calls. I'm sure that was mine. It's 31, isn't it? 34. Oops. Oh, misread that one. When I was working as a land support officer, most of my job was going around and troubleshooting people's computers where the most common issue was they had too many windows open, usually of the same thing over and over again. So it was go around, took 2 minutes, then go back, sit down, and wait for the next one. Also did a little bit of freelance 3D design. Unfortunately, the person I was doing it with got all the credit and all the pay, so yeah, that didn't work out too well. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Oh no, IT does not necessarily mean you make a ton of money. I mean, depending on where you're working, you can make a reasonable amount, but you're still an office worker effectively. There's an awful lot of background knowledge that you need to have that a lot of the time can only be learned through experience. I mean, it's like graphic design. Some graphic designers can earn a lot of money, but you've got to be in the right place at the right time to do it. There's one. Nope. Yep. I mean, I've known of people that earn well over 100 grand a year for sitting on their bum and telling other people what to do. They just happen to be really good at it. Right, let's find another system, I think. $6 billion, that looks like a good spot to go. I mean, when I was working in IT, I was reasonably well paid, but it took me about 7 or 8 years of working in IT support to get to that point. And my brother at one stage was doing contract IT support work, and he was getting $175 an hour. Unfortunately, it was only for 1 or 2 hours a week. So although it sounds like an awful lot of money, he was only paid for 1 to 2 hours and be travelling up to 2 to 3 hours each way, depending on where he had to go to do the work. The joys of on-site support. That's the one we want. $11. See if we get one that's got longer than that. Always go for the shortest duration first. Anything out in the middle of nowhere? Not this time. Yeah, that's a that's a difficult one. My sister-in-law was making an absolute bucket load of money selling printer cartridges, but she worked up from the person sitting on the phones answering calls from people who wanted to order them already, through to the sales side of things where they were actually cold calling, and eventually became the manager of the call centre that she was working in. But she gave all that up to become a teacher. one thing I did enjoy when I was doing the 3D animation and graphic design side of things was I was getting paid to play. Yeah, we one of the best jobs we did was one of the local TV stations. He was working as the IT support guy, and they were redoing all their logos, and we said we can do that. Oh yeah, but we want it this way and we want it that way. I said, well, we can do better than that. So we did. And because of that, my daughter got to go on TV, um, saying goodnight to whatever the TV mascot's name was. I mean, they don't do that anymore, but yeah, back then. She was all of about 6 or 7, and now she's 24, so it was a while ago. Sorry, she just turned 25. I can still look it up on YouTube. The thing is at the time she had almost waist length curly blonde hair, and as she entered her teenage years, she got her hair cut short and became interested in things like Green Day and My Chemical Romance, etc. So basically, goth became the way she is. So now she's got black and red hair, and it's short. So it was a minor change. I'm not going to quit the desktop. Look at that. No, sorry. Oh yeah, yep. Uh, for my daughter, it's not a phase. It's a lifestyle choice. She is nothing if not an individual. Coded emissions, degraded emissions, and convoy dispersal patterns. Next system. Thank you for the raid, Grumpy, and welcome to the stream. And thank you for the follow. That's alright, that was a misread. Don't know what happened there. But thank you very much for the follow, Arthur. Elite Dangerous, I've been playing since about a week after its release. The original, not Horizons. But if you want to count how long I played Elite for, I first played it in 1984. Total time played between several accounts is about 5,000 hours. Most of which was spent exploring. That's the one we want. Oh, there's two. That's not what I wanted. That's better. Convoy dispersal. Yeah, long time player here. When I first started playing, there was no such thing as collector limpets. Mining was done manually with mining lasers. Engineering didn't exist. We didn't have access to the passenger ships. Oh, 3 of them. Alright. Whoop, missed one. Turn off everything but signal sources. And planets, of course. Minutes on that one. And on that one. It's 560. That's the closest one. Away we go. Combat is you can make money doing it, but it is the least profitable income. Welcome back. Yeah, so there are people who do combat a lot and can still make money, but it takes longer than, excuse me, just about everything else. Unless you're really, really good at hunting Thargoids. And I mean really, really good at hunting Thargoids. Now, the reason I use Super Cruise Assist is so that I can do this. If it works. There we go. Much shorter period of time to pick up what you need. Now, what I'm looking for here is every so often you'll find the remains of a fighter. And if you can get close to it, no, doesn't look like it. Well, lots of dishes to do, hey, Phoenix. Where are we? That way. Alrighty. Get it under the 2 light seconds. Yeah, we got it. And drop. least you're still getting 3 per. Alright. And away we go, jumping back up. Cruise on in. We're down to the 7-second mark in a moment. There it is. Alright, full speed and then drop. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Don't miss it, thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Let's see if that texture's been updated. Oh, fuel rats and the hull seals are amazing. Okay, I think that's still the same. But anyway, point being, yeah, I was flying around and I noticed it was writing next to one of the cockpits. Now, that number there is one of the Planck constants without the exponential description. So, if we look it up on Google, which is always a nice tool, 6.62607,004 times 10 Planck. So it's actually 10 to the minus 34. But the Planck constant, symbolized H, is the energy in one photon of electromagnetic radiation to the frequency of that radiation. And they're getting more accurate with it, so it's been redefined a couple of times. But yeah. So the current calculation of this is 6.62607,015 times 10 to the minus 34. There you go. Bit of useless trivia, but something you can find in Elite Dangerous. Okay, unknown signal sources. Basically what you're going to do is what I've been doing. It's one of the ways of gathering materials. You can only do it in Super Cruise, so let me get back into Super Cruise. So at the moment you'll see there's a couple of things here with an identified signal source. Right, if I go into the map, select the far left of the full system scan. If I go to the far left, that's where the signal sources come up in this little band here. And then you go looking for them, and they'll appear as a circle with 3 indicators. And generally what you're looking for, if your material's collecting, is any of the emissions. So high-grade emissions obviously will give you better materials than degraded ones or encoded ones will. So optimally you want high-grade emissions. And they, unlike planets which generally appear in the orbital plane, emissions can be anywhere. Oh, excuse me. If you're hunting Thargoids, it'll be a non-human signal source. And the higher the threat level, the more dangerous the thing you'll encounter. Alright, so now we've got all those mapped. Alright, so the closest thing at the moment is an encoded emissions. Okay, you will find that you'll need to do some level of engineering if you want to get into PvP side of things against doing PvE, bounty hunting, that sort of thing. Engineering is less important, but I'd still recommend you do it. It makes things quicker. With regards to getting money quick and unlocking engineers, if you've only been playing for a couple of days, it may be worth doing an exploration run. Oh, excuse me. May be worth doing an exploration run. Get yourself a small ship that can fly like a hauler or something similar, and upgrade the frameshift drive as high as you can afford. And then do a thing they call the Road to Riches, where basically you fly out and scan high value planets in particular systems. Once you've done that, you'll earn a few million credits. You'll then be able to buy a better ship, and then you'll be able to do your bounty hunting more effectively. With regards to the mining, I personally wouldn't recommend mining in anything smaller than probably a Type 6 or an Asp Explorer. Personally, I prefer the Asp Explorer, just because you need enough slots to be able to put in a couple of collectors and things like that. As well as carry the mining tools that you want. Right, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different materials that you can pick up, all of which will be used in some way for engineering. Mining is the fastest way to earn money. If all you want to do is earn some money to upgrade your ships to the larger ships with, excuse me, bigger guns, then sure, go for it. But if you haven't had an opportunity to do so yet, it is worth exploring some of the other aspects of the game. You may find that there's something you enjoy other than combat, which means that the game will be more fun for longer. Your basic ones that you want to unlock, the first one, or one of the first ones, is Felicity Farseer. I can't remember what it is that she needs, but I can recommend ED Tutorials by Commander Exidious. He does a whole bunch of short videos. I'll see if I can find a link for you. Fair enough. Alright. There's the link for ED Tutorials by Commander Exidious. Like I said, he does a whole bunch. He's done a whole bunch of videos on just about every aspect of the game, from collecting materials from Guardian web sites to, excuse me, how to use the full spectrum scanner and all the rest of it. So if you've got any questions from one of his tutorials, the next time I'm on the line, feel free to add me in game. As you can see on the screen, it's just Greytalon in game rather than Commander Greytalon. Feel free to add me in game. I'm quite happy to help you out if you need trouble, if you're having trouble finding something or doing something like landing on planets, etc. I'm quite happy to demonstrate what needs to be done, and the way that I do it. I'm a lazy gamer. I'm really good at becoming mediocre. So if there's an easy way to do stuff, generally speaking, I'll do it. If it's, I don't mind combat in various zones around the place, but I don't generally enjoy fighting Thargoids, because to me Thargoids are endgame material and I'm just not that interested. Yeah. Bounty hunting missions can be very difficult to actually find your targets. Sometimes you'll need to go to multiple signal sources before you find the one you're looking for, which is why I tend to avoid them. But you can go to a hazardous resource collection site in one of the planetary rings and shoot people down for bounties without having to worry about getting a mission to do it. That's another issue you can find, is that unless, if you find them in free space as such, so while you're in Super Cruise, you'll need to have an interdictor and you'll need to get behind them and then within a certain range, and the range depends on how fast you're travelling. It's actually a time function. I think it's you've got to be within 1.5 seconds of travel time, or maybe 10 seconds of travel time. I'm not sure of the exact formula they use, but it all depends on how fast you're travelling as well. And if anyone tells you to go to Hutton Orbital to get a free Anaconda, or a free fleet carrier is the latest version, Hutton Orbital is an outpost and therefore does not sell large ships. So you'll never get an Anaconda there. You can't even land in an Anaconda there. In some ways, this people think that this is really complex, but it's one of those games where, depending on how much complexity you're looking for, you can make things more complex as you become used to them. Myself, my favourite things to do is running missions or cargo runs or exploration. The basic exploration, the basic missions, delivery missions, etc., are not very complex. They're quite simple. Fly from point A to point B, deliver cargo or messages, and then or pick up cargo and then go back. Um, if you want to trade in rare goods, you've got to find out where those rare goods are located, pick them up, take them to a specific location that's far enough away so that you get a decent price for it. And you may find that you can set up a trade route where you go to 15 different locations over the course of a loop, buying from one and selling at different ones, and so on and so forth. Yep. I mean, stacking delivery missions, especially courier missions where you're not actually delivering physical cargo, um, can be a really quick way of getting money in the early game. I mean, one of the things that I've seen happen on Star Citizen is a couple of the guys that play Elite Dangerous jumped into Star Citizen. Were flying around in one of the open groups, and some guy had left his starship parked on the landing pad, so they went out and stole it. 500,000. Let's have a look. I did have. I believe that was an exploit at the time because the game's not finished. There is the facility for stealing a ship, but the process of stealing one at the time was basically as long as you could get in the ship, you could steal it. So the owner of the ship could be on board in the pilot seat, and if they left their cargo hatch open, you could sneak up into the cargo hatch, kill the owner of the ship, and steal it. Yeah, it was a feature, but it was one that was being tested and exploited quite a bit by particular groups. So, yeah, they changed the way that it worked. I mean, the chances are that there's going to be that sort of thing happening from time to time. Um, the big issue, I think, with Star Citizen is nobody knows when it's going to even be finished. At the moment, more than anything, it seems to be a test platform for game mechanics and how powerful can we, or how much detail can we put into a game and still be able to run it. Um, yeah, it's basically the same thing. I mean, with Odyssey coming out, so we'll have space legs. Who knows? Maybe there'll be the chance to steal ships in Elite Dangerous. We don't know because they haven't mentioned any of the gameplay yet. But if you're going to go and do an assault on a landing pad, which, judging from the short in-game footage preview that we got, may be possible. Oh, hang on. We've got a message. Delivery contract. I'm really not interested in that. No, we're going to decline that. There you go. My fleet carrier just cost me 17 million credits. Well, nearly 18 million. Yep. That's the biggest issue with some of the bounty missions is if it's an assassination type mission, there may be a bounty on that person, but it might not be in the system in which you're located. So if you start killing people like that, you can get what they call notoriety. And notoriety basically means that more and more police will be looking for you in each of the systems that are allied with that one. Until half the galaxy's looking for you. So there we go, that was my upkeep last week. And I've still got 1.5 billion in there. Nope, nothing there. I think I might go back to my carrier for a little bit. Carrier should be over here somewhere. Let's hit 1, 2, 3, 1, 4. Where did I leave my carrier? Oh, there it is. $128 light years away. Oh yeah, and as your notoriety increases, you can actually get the elite space cops, or SWAT version if you like. And those guys use fully engineered ships, and yeah, things get really nasty. So what ship are you flying around in the moment, Arthur? Getting a little low on fuel. fourth star, get some fuel. This is a pretty spot to drop into. Oh, that's right, I don't have a fuel scoop. I forgot. That was a bad thing to do. You can get a hands-on throttle and stick system, which is throttle in one hand, joystick in the other. I've heard a lot of people using. Excuse me. Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people using dual stick controllers. I know of people that use a combination of keyboard and joystick or keyboard and throttle. I've also heard of people using a mouse and throttle. There are so many different options. The most important thing is to find something that works for you. Myself, I've got the basic setup. My mouse left and right makes the ship roll. Some people prefer to have the mouse left and right to be moving the ship like the yaw direction. It's just a matter of what your preference is. Yep. I also know a person who's used an Xbox controller from the start, and that's all they've ever used. I have been told that in PvE with fixed weapons, the mouse is the best control, but I don't know how they set that up. So, because I tend to avoid PvP. Use that one I want. That number one. Nope, that's two. That's one. We'll be in a second, give me a minute. Myself, I've always used keyboard and mouse playing this. I would like a hands-on throttle and stick. But we'll see what happens. jumps remaining? 3. Definitely get back to home. There she is. Yeah, the only thing I've got to hope is not on the wrong side of the planet. Yeah, it looks like we're good. Yeah, this is taking a while. There we go. There she be. this is my favourite ship in the game. So this is my orca, the Grey Wanderer. Why is it called Grey? Because it's named after me. And as you can see, I mean, I'm flying with mouse and keyboard. A lot of it is what you get used to. Different ships obviously handle differently, but the more you fly a particular ship, the more comfortable you become with it. And the more risky you can do things. Whoop. That was a bit in the wrong way, but that's why you got shields. Try to get through there. I'll stop running into things. Anyway, I think that'll be it for this evening. Thank you very much for watching the stream. I hope I answered some questions and helped you out a little. I'm going to call it a night. So, have fun, be safe, fly enthusiastically. 07 and out.